He felt very, very disappointed. At the minute, Trump is very, very focused on the Republican Party, the midterms, maybe Truss very soon.
Farage unleashed. The brutal takedown that's shaking Westminster. Right. Before we dive into what might be the most savage political assassination I've witnessed in years, do us a favor and smash that subscribe button. Trust me, you'll want to be notified when the inevitable fallout from this story hits, because what I'm about to tell you is going to leave Westminster reeling for weeks to come. Nigel Farage has just delivered what can only be described as a masterclass in political brutality, and frankly, it's a kind of unfiltered honesty that makes the establishment absolutely furious. In an exclusive interview with the Daily Expresso, the Reform UK leader didn't just throw punches at his political opponents. He brought a sledgehammer to what was supposed to be a civilized conversation. And the casualties? Well, let's just say several prominent politicians are probably considering early retirement this morning. Picture this scene, if you will. There's Farage, sitting comfortably in the studio, that familiar smirk playing at the corners of his mouth as JJ Anisiobi prepares to ask what should have been straightforward questions about the current political landscape. What followed was nothing short of a verbal demolition job that left no party unscathed and no reputation intact. This wasn't just criticism. This was character assassination with surgical precision, delivered with that uniquely British blend of wit and absolute disdain that only Farage seems capable of weaponizing so effectively. The first victim of this political bloodbath was the entire concept of respectful discourse. When liberal Democrat comparisons to Vladimir Putin were raised, Farage's response was immediate and crushing. That really is cretinous, isn't it? That really is cretinous. Everything with him is a conspiracy theory of some kind. Now, calling your political opponents cretinous on national television takes a particular kind of confidence, but Farage delivered it with a casual dismissiveness of someone swatting away an irritating fly. The Liberal Democrats, already struggling with their post-election identity crisis, found themselves reduced to conspiracy theorists peddling nonsense. But here's where it gets particularly delicious, and if you haven't subscribed yet, you really should, because this level of political theater doesn't happen every day. Farage then turned his attention to Ed Davey, and the statistics he cited were absolutely brutal. After years of leading the Liberal Democrats through what they probably consider their moment of triumph, only 25% of the British public can actually recognize Davey from a photograph. 25%. That's not just political irrelevance. That's approaching complete anonymity in the age of social media saturation. Farage's observation that the big reveal of detention and display was really intriguing carried the kind of mocking undertone that suggests he finds the Liberal Democrats' desperate attempts at publicity more amusing than threatening. The savagery didn't stop there, though. Oh no, Farage was just getting warmed up. His attack on Chris Philp, the Shadow Home Secretary, was a kind of political evisceration that careers don't recover from. According to Farage, Philp should be in hiding rather than making media appearances, and the reasoning behind this character assassination was devastatingly simple. Here's a man who spent his time as immigration minister overseeing the opening of migrant hotels, only to appear on television discussing what should be done about migrant hotels. The sheer audacity of it, the brass neck required to criticize policies you were instrumental in implementing, left Farage genuinely incredulous. Philp is a shadow minister, and while he was making the rounds, a very forgettable person. He was doing it, Farage explained, with that trademark blend of bewilderment and contempt. The interviewer's follow-up question exposed the fundamental absurdity of the situation. But Mr. Philp, you were the immigration minister when all these hotels were opening. The silence that must have followed that revelation speaks volumes about the current state of Conservative Party messaging. When your Shadow Home Secretary is being held accountable for policies he implemented while in government, you know your party's credibility is in tatters. Now, if you're enjoying this level of political carnage and want to ensure you never miss another moment of Westminster chaos, that subscribe button is looking rather lonely down there. Hit it now, because what comes next in Farage's rampage makes everything we've discussed so far look like gentle criticism. Rob Jenrick, the Shadow Justice Secretary, found himself christened with a new moniker courtesy of Farage's branding genius. Robert Jenrick became Jenrick's new identity, a nickname that captures everything wrong with modern conservative politics in two devastating words. Generic, unremarkable, forgettable, interchangeable. But Farage wasn't content with simple name-calling. His description of Jenric's political conversion was laced with biblical mockery that would make even the most seasoned political satirist jealous. It has been like St. Paul on the road to Damascus, this blinding light in the skies. The implication being, of course, that Jenric's sudden political awakening is about as genuine as a 3-pound note and twice as transparent. The religious imagery wasn't accidental. Farage was painting Jenric as a political opportunist experiencing convenient revelations at precisely the moment his career required them. It's the kind of pointed criticism that sticks because it rings true to anyone who's watched politicians reinvent themselves when circumstances demand it. Generic Rob, as he'll probably be known from now on, has been positioned as the archetypal modern conservative, saying whatever needs to be said to remain relevant while lacking any genuine conviction or authentic political identity. But perhaps the most devastating moment came when Farage turned his attention to Sir Keir Starmer, and here's where the psychological warfare truly began. According to Farage, the Prime Minister just repeatedly lies to us, but it wasn't the accusation of dishonesty that cut deepest. It was a suggestion that Starmer might not even believe his own words anymore. That's not just political criticism, that's existential destruction. When you question whether a politician believes their own rhetoric, you're essentially suggesting they've lost their political soul entirely. Farage's observation about Starmer's appearance before the recess was particularly cutting. I thought I saw something in his eyes. He seemed a bit beaten. He appeared to be really down. Perhaps he will return rejuvenated. I'm not sure, but to me it seemed like he really wasn't having any fun at all. This wasn't just political point scoring. This was psychological profiling delivered with surgical precision. The image of a prime minister who isn't enjoying the job he fought so hard to obtain is politically toxic. It suggests incompetence, overwhelm, and a fundamental unsuitability for the role. The genius of Farage's approach here lies in its subtlety. He wasn't making grand accusations or conspiracy theories. He was simply observing what he'd seen in Starmer's eyes, letting the audience draw their own conclusions about what it means when the most powerful person in the country looks beaten and down while supposedly leading the nation through challenging times. It's character assassination by implication, and it's brutally effective precisely because it feels like genuine observation rather than political attack. Speaking of observations, if you haven't subscribed to UK Connors yet, you're missing out on the kind of political analysis that cuts through the Westminster bubble nonsense and tells you what's actually happening. Hit that subscribe button now because we're about to discuss what might be the most shocking prediction Farage made during this interview. The moment that probably had Conservative Party headquarters reaching for the crisis management playbook came when JJ Anisiobi mentioned Kimi Badenoch, and Farage's response was pure theatrical gold. Sorry, who's that? The pause, the confusion, the apparent genuine bewilderment at hearing Badenoch's name was comedy timing at its finest. I know. I saw her once on the telly. She's a conservative, isn't she? This wasn't just mockery. This was political obliteration disguised as innocent confusion. But Farage wasn't content with simply pretending not to know who the conservative leader was. His prediction about her political future was delivered with the certainty of someone reading tomorrow's newspapers rather than making educated guesses. It will be finished by Christmas. She'll be gone. The confidence in that statement was remarkable, but the reasoning behind it was even more devastating to conservative hopes. According to Farage's analysis, there's a 50-50 chance Badenoch will be out by Christmas, and if she somehow survives until May, the Scottish elections will finish her off entirely. His description of the Conservative Party's trajectory was particularly brutal. Pretty much destroyed in Wales and nearly ceased to exist as a national party. That's not political hyperbole. That obituary writing for what was once considered the natural party of government in Britain. The historical significance of this moment wasn't lost on Farage, and he made sure his audience understood they were witnessing something unprecedented. This is a historic event. This is a historic occurrence. The repetition wasn't accidental. He wanted to emphasize that what we're seeing isn't just another political cycle or temporary setback. According to Farage, we're watching the potential end of the Conservative Party as a meaningful political force in British politics. Now, here's where Farage's political instincts really shine through, and if you want to understand how political warfare actually works in modern Britain, you need to subscribe to this channel because we break down the strategies and psychology behind these moments. The timing of this interview wasn't coincidental. The Daily Expresso represents a new front in the media war, and Farage's appearance signals his intention to use every available platform to drive home his message about Westminster's failures. The strategic brilliance of Farage's approach during this interview lies in its comprehensive nature. He didn't just attack individual politicians or specific policies. He systematically dismantled the credibility of entire parties while positioning Reform UK as the only authentic voice in British politics. The Liberal Democrats were dismissed as irrelevant conspiracy theorists. The Conservatives were portrayed as incompetent hypocrites led by forgettable nonentities. Labour was characterised as dishonest and disillusioned. And through it all, Farage presented himself as the one politician willing to speak uncomfortable truths. The psychological impact of this kind of sustained attack cannot be overstated. When a politician of Farage's prominence systematically questions the competence, honesty, and relevance of the entire Westminster establishment, it creates a narrative vacuum that his own party is perfectly positioned to fill. This wasn't just an interview, it was a political manifesto disguised as casual conversation. But perhaps the most significant aspect of this entire performance was what it revealed about the current state of British politics. The fact that Farage felt comfortable delivering such devastating criticism suggests a confidence born from polling data, grassroots feedback, and insider knowledge about the true state of his opponent's positions. Politicians don't usually make such bold predictions about their rivals' imminent demise unless they have good reason to believe those predictions will prove accurate. The media landscape that enabled this moment is equally significant. The Daily Expresso represents the kind of alternative platform that traditional politicians struggle to understand or effectively utilize. While Westminster remains obsessed with legacy media appearances and conventional political protocols, Farage is pioneering new ways to reach audiences directly. His comfort with this format, his ability to generate memorable sound bites, and his instinct for what will resonate with viewers demonstrates why he remains such a formidable political operator. The implications of this interview extend far beyond the immediate headlines it generated. If Farage's predictions prove accurate, if Badenoch really is gone by Christmas, if the Conservatives continue their decline into political irrelevance, then this interview will be remembered as a moment when the shape of British politics fundamentally changed. The confidence with which these predictions were delivered suggests Farage believes he has information or insights that support such bold claims. For Labour, Starmer's characterization as beaten and disillusioned should be genuinely concerning. Prime ministers who appear to be struggling with the demands of office rarely recover their authority once that perception takes hold. The suggestion that Starmer might not believe his own words anymore strikes at the heart of political credibility. If the public begins to see their prime minister as someone going through the motions rather than leading with conviction, the consequences for Labour could be severe. The Conservative Party's predicament, as outlined by Farage, appears even more dire. When your shadow Home Secretary is being mocked for criticizing policies he implemented, when your Justice spokesperson is dismissed as generic, and when your leader is so unknown that opponents can plausibly pretend not to recognize her name, you're not just facing political crisis, you're facing an existential threat to your relevance. Before we wrap up this analysis, make sure you're subscribed to UK Connors because the fallout from this interview is going to dominate political headlines for weeks, and you'll want to stay ahead of the story as it develops. The responses from the targeted politicians, the Conservative Party's damage control efforts, and Labour's attempt to address questions about Starmer's state of mind will all provide fascinating insights into how modern political warfare actually works. What makes this entire episode so significant is how it demonstrates the power of authentic political communication in an age of carefully managed messaging. While other politicians rely on focus group sound bites and risk-averse positioning, Farage's willingness to deliver unfiltered opinions creates moments of genuine political drama that cut through the noise of modern media saturation. Whether you agree with his politics or not, his ability to generate attention and drive conversations is undeniable. The broader implications for British politics are profound. If Farage's analysis proves accurate, we may be witnessing the realignment of the entire political landscape. The traditional three-party system that has dominated British politics for generations could be replaced by something entirely different. Reform UK's rise, combined with the potential collapse of Conservative influence and Labour's apparent struggles with leadership credibility, suggests we're entering uncharted political territory. So there you have it. The most brutal political takedown of the year delivered with trademark Farage precision and absolutely no mercy for anyone in the firing line. Westminster's comfortable assumptions about political civility and respectful discourse have been thoroughly shattered, and the reverberations are going to be felt for months to come. If you want to stay ahead of this story and understand what's really happening behind the Westminster facade, subscribe to UK Connors now, because this is just the beginning of what promises to be the most interesting political period in modern British history. The old certainties are crumbling, new alliances are forming, and the only guarantee is that nothing will ever